Hey friends, it's time for Thought Shifting Thursdays. Talking today about The Surrender Experiment, book by Michael Singer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I don't like about the book or what I don't really resonate with. And then I'll tell you what I really love about it and why it's helping me to up my practice. um, so first off, in the book, as well as The Untethered Soul. Hi, Naomi. Hi, Leslie. Good to see you guys. Hey, we'll all be on the island. Catalina, a little over a month from now. Can't wait. Got to talk to you about that, Naomi. Anyway, back to the subject. I digress. um, I don't resonate with about the Surrender Experiment and also his other bestseller, the Untethered Soul, is he talks a lot about. I mean, it's kind of brilliant how he talks about the voice inside one's head, right? We all have a voice that's constantly talking. What he says in the Untethered Soul is, if you had a friend that followed you around and was constantly talking the way your mind was, you'd get rid of that friend pretty fast, right? And so what I don't resonate with is all through both books, he sees the voice in his head as something to annihilate, as something to get rid of. And I think, in my senses, one of the reasons it's taken him so long to get to a place of peace over the course of his life and, outlined in the story of his life, is because everyone's heard me say this many, many times. Whatever we resist not only persists but magnifies. If I'm resisting that voice in my head or thinking that it's a problem, then guess what? It tends to get louder, right? Maybe this process has worked perfect. Of course, it worked perfectly for him because it's the practice that he developed for himself, and so that works. But for me, a much more integrative approach is, rather than trying to annihilate the voice in my head, is to give it love. And I've been doing this for years, has been my practice. And as a result, the voice in my head is my friend. I like this part of me, right? It's not all of me, certainly. And the more, in fact, I bring love to this part of myself, or to the voice in my head, or to all the parts of myself, then the more I become aligned with my soul. Because as I write in my book, The Magic of the Soul, copy right here. I don't have a copy of the Surrender Experiment because I listened to it on audio. And I just finished reading it yesterday, or listening to it yesterday. So as I write in The Magic of the Soul, when I'm going to paraphrase this because I don't remember the exact quote, but, as human beings, we're on a path to, once we become conscious and we're on a spiritual path, a self-growth path, we're moving toward the ideal, which might be bliss or enlightenment or pure love, right? We're on this journey to experience more and more of that. When we or our soul to get to move into soul consciousness. When I arrive at soul consciousness, is there something I need to say before that? When I arrive at soul consciousness, then I turn my attention back to the world of form, back to my personality. So the goal of the individual is to aspire to be the soul. The goal of the soul is to enlighten the individual, is to bring love to it. And that cannot be done without acceptance. So, as Carl Rogers, one of my favorite quotes, the founder of humanistic psychology, said, I love this phrasing, the curious paradox is, when I accept myself exactly as I am, only then can I change. And so the voice in my head is an aspect of myself. And parts of ourselves are just like human beings. Only when I accept that exactly as it is, will it grow, will it change, will it transform. So that's my experience about that. So the reason I bring it up is I'm recommending this book, so I don't want to recommend it and have you think that I'm in alignment with that piece of it, okay? The other thing about the book, and I just wonder, well, let me get to what I like about it, and then I'll say another possible detraction about it. But what I love about it is the stories that he tells about his life and this surrender experiment is simply he noticed that one of the main um, elements or aspects of the voice in his head is that its preferences. This is good, that's bad. I like this, I don't like that, right? And so the constant chattering has a great deal about personal preference, right? And it's even kind of fascinating to me because, even near the end of the book, he'll say things like, "So this opportunity came to me, and it's the last thing in the world I wanted to do, but his practice is to surrender. He's surrendered into it and to go with the flow of life. This is being offered to me, so it must be. So I'll say yes to it and see what happens. And as a result of shifting from making things happen in life based on personal preferences to just being open to what happens and going with the flow of what's presented, absolute synchronicity and amazing miracles or amazing opportunities that he could not have ever imagined come into play as a result of his primary focus going with the flow of life rather than making things happen. So I love all that, and that's what inspires me to up my practice. If you've watched any of my videos, read any of my books, been in any of my classes, you know that I was going to say my most important practice, baseline spiritual practice, is loving myself exactly as I am. But right up there with that practice is practicing non-attachment and non-resistance. Actually, to put them in order, non-resistance and non-attachment. So non-resistance to whatever is being presented to me, which is very similar to what Michael Singer's talking about. Non-attachment to results in life, which also goes hand in hand with non-resistance. And so upping this to really looking at, bringing it down to observing and being mindful about my personal preferences, and really checking in. Is this personal preference in alignment with my soul intention, right? Or is it my personality that is, or even ego, that is wanting to make this thing happen, or just hoping that something will happen? I'm going to say something else about that. So that I'll go back to again. The more I let go of resistance to what is, the more I let go of attachments to what is, what has been, or what may be, the more I come in alignment with my soul, because my soul sees the larger picture all the time, right? And so my soul knows that whatever is happening is the perfect thing to be happening all the time. And so the more I become in alignment with that, then the more my personal preferences are in alignment with this larger vision of my soul. And again, I think that that's something that Michael Singer is missing out on by not loving the voice in his head, is that alignment that comes, right? And maybe he's arriving at it another way, but personally, I don't know any other way than to bring love to what I might be resisting. So maybe at this point, I'll put it out as a practice then. Maybe we can do this in a meditative way before we're done as well. But as a practice to simply be mindful, observe your thoughts, observe your preferences, and really check in. That's my practice, having finished the book, is really checking in. Is this voice in my head speaking in a way that it's supporting the higher vision of my soul? Or is it just, my personality whining about something, or complaining about something that I'm not happy about, right? Um, and what I'll add to that then, or integrate with my current practice, is I will bring love to that voice, if it is just whining or complaining, right? Um, which isn't usually the case, but sometimes it is. I don't know. I really have to assess that. I'll keep you posted. But I think for the most part, I mean, my initial reaction to something might be a discontent, right? A resistance. But that's when I notice the resistance, when I notice a feeling of discomfort. That's when I go into, oh, this is perfect for me right now. And if a need be, let's bring love to that voice that is complaining, right? So the other piece that I wonder about the book is when he talks about, when he describes all the amazing experiences that have happened as a result of going with the flow. Interesting, because there's a part in the book where he talks about being his office, their compound, being raided by the FBI and having a 6-year lawsuit against him, and yet in all that, I mean, to his credit, he doesn't resist that. And as a result of not resisting that experience, I mean, that would be tough to have. Let's see, at the time, they had a huge kind of compound that housed both their spiritual commune, you could call it, spiritual community, and also the business. He developed a software business that became wildly successful, a multi-million-dollar company. And that's what the lawsuit was about. It was about some fraud that was going on, and he was actually the charges were dropped against him. So back to the point I was making, which is that some of the experiences and the synchronicities and the magic that happens as a result of this, I just wonder if they're exaggerated. Anytime anyone writes a book, they're always going to write the book from the, well, I can't say always, but most always, from the perspective of making the best point, making the most inspiring point, coming from a place of how we have succeeded, not so much how we failed, right? Because that's what makes it a good book, although bringing the challenges one experiences also makes it an interesting book. So I just wonder how much it's exaggerated. Ultimately, it doesn't matter to me. And one of the reasons I question that even more is just today, decided to look him up on Wikipedia, and so what it says in Wikipedia is that 6 of the executives of this company pleaded guilty to the charges. And it does not say that in the book. It says that there were 2 individuals who were prosecuted, who had created from his explanation, false allegations in order to make a deal with the FBI so that their wrongdoing would not be punished, right? And they succeeded in that, or got their sentence reduced as a result of blaming the executives, including Michael Singer. But in the book, correct me if I'm wrong, because I just finished reading it. And to my recollection, I believe the book says that that all of the executives, the charges were dropped, or they were. Now I'm remembering, there was, I think he said that there were 2 people who were indicted, but they were ultimately, it was charged as a mistrial. So I'm not sure what Wikipedia, or if that's even accurate, but it said 6 individuals were pleaded guilty. That's not what it says in the book. So that's just another reason that I question some of the validity or accuracy. And again, I want to emphasize that as I say that, again, that's just because I'm recommending the book, and I want to make sure that that if you have those same concerns, that we're in alignment there. But ultimately, for me, it doesn't matter, because I can separate that from the message of the book and the stories. No matter how fictionalized they may be, they still inspire me, and therefore, it's a worthwhile read. And so, but whether you read the book or not, my encouragement to you, as well as myself, is to just up my mindfulness, up our mindfulness about this dialogue in our head, and how positive is it. One of the exercises we do in my Busting Loose from the Money Game class, and someone has suggested we do it in our on our retreat this year, Naomi and Leslie. And also welcome, is that Barrio Myra? C Barrio Mira. All right, welcome you too. Is to do this exercise we do where, and you can do this, gather a couple friends and do it. We did it in class last time by Zoom. That's why I suggested we do this on the beach, on our Catalina retreat, because it works much better to do it in person and have people in person. Because what you do, well, this is something you can do on your own. Gather a couple people together. You need at least 2 people. Write down what, maybe we can do this in a meditative way too. We'll see. Write down what are the most discouraging words that you hear in your head, right, on a regular basis. You know, when you, and one way to assess that is when you make a mistake, what do you hear? Do you hear the words, "You idiot," or do you hear the words, "That's okay, we're learning something, we can do better," or something in between, right? So, so you write down the most common phrases you hear in your head. Another way to identify them is, what did you hear as a child from your parents? Because that's how we integrate these phrases. And then you get 2 people. You decide what are the 2 most insidious or uncomfortable phrases that you hear in your head, and you tell 2 people what they are. And you're going to do an experiment where they're going to say these phrases over and over. And then at some point, you hold up 2 fingers. It means peace. Also means phase 2. I'm not going to explain what that means from Busting Loose the Money Game, so it would take too much time. But just know that you're moving from phase 1 of the human game to phase 2 of the human game, which is all about positivity. And so you've also given, before you started, your 2 partners the opposite of those phrases. So if it's "you idiot," "you can't do it," then it becomes "you're brilliant," "you can do anything." And you can ad-lib these phrases and have them evolve as well, if you're the partners that are helping. And to make it even more impactful, as the partners are saying the negative things, so one would be saying, "You're stupid." The other one would be saying, "You can't do it." Those are the 2 that I usually come up with to demonstrate this. And as they're saying them, they're giving you a little nudge. So you're physiologically feeling what it's like to have this happen inside your head. So it actualizes the inner dynamic. And then when you say phase 2 and they go to the opposite, now the push comes to a caress. And it becomes to "you're brilliant. You can do anything." And this goes on for as long as you, the person who's being processed, you're in control of this, right? In fact, you are acting as the observer as you're experiencing it all. So when you say phase 2, it's you decide when that happens because you're in control. And then you decide when you've had enough, and then you have a group hug with everyone. So, so what this does, it makes it so clear. It makes it so clear that how damaging this inner dialogue is when it's not positive, and the antithesis to that, the opposite of that, how empowering it is, how good it feels, how nurturing, how healing it is when we switch to the positive. And so when people come out after having done this exercise, they come out of it and are so much more aware then of their inner dialogue. And awareness is what gives us the opportunity to choose the wisest path, right? So let's do a little meditation with this. Close your eyes. Take a deep healing breath. And you know what? I'll just invite you, before we go into the meditation, so you can continue the meditation once I sign off. Just to remind you, if you've gotten value from this video today, please give us a like, share it with anyone you think could benefit from this, and give us some comments. What are the challenging phrases in your head, and what do you want to shift those to? What's the opposite that you're going to start employing more and more consistently? So close your eyes, take a deep healing breath, and let out a big heartful sigh. Doesn't that feel good? Let's just kind of do this in retrospect. Just look back over your day so far today and just notice, see if you can identify, maybe in any challenging situation you might have had, what has that inner voice said? And let's, in retrospect, change it. Give it the opposite. In fact, let's relive it. Relive the experience that might have been challenging. And even if you don't recollect the exact words that might have come through in that moment from that inner voice, feel the energy of it. And you can put words to it, if it wasn't positive especially. And just notice how that feels. If you want to take it further, even imagine you've got someone saying it over and over to you, giving you a push and a shove. We can do this meditatively. And whenever it's right for you, hold up 2 fingers. Shift it to the opposite. What's the positive reframe? Again, if you want to extend that even further, imagine that a group of people are surrounding you and saying this positive affirmation over and over, and caressing you and hugging you and giving you love. Notice how good that feels. And just stay with that good feeling. Just absorb it, integrate it, embody it as much as you possibly can in this moment. And as you're feeling this, make a commitment to make your inner dialogue, to shift it from the negative to the positive, from the demeaning to the empowering, from the dislike to the unconditional love. Keep meditating with this as long as you want, my friends, and we'll sign off for now and see you next week. Love to you.